kind of wanted to start with Columbus as a city. The way we all interact in the city is a lot different than around the country. You know, people compare us to New York and LA and things like that. I think that the reason there's so many people in this room is that there's a lot of people in Columbus that care about a lot of things, and it's a pretty awesome city to live in right now. We're always accused of being a cow town, and we're small, and we're too neighborly, and this is a place to raise a family, not to have a nightlife, things like that. But I see a lot of that as being, you know, some of the things that are working for Columbus are the fact that everybody's really friendly and everybody's really connected. There's a lot of people doing some really interesting things, you know, some smart, creative people doing interesting businesses, art ventures. In 2007, the city and a bunch of independent artists all got together and said, hey, Columbus is the independent art capital of the world. It was a starting point for just kind of announcing the fact that this is a really creative city. There's a lot of good things going on. It's a matter of putting your foot down and saying, we're going to be something, and then now you're trying to do those things. The need for a space for these things to occur in has become increasingly important. There's been a lot of people that have organized groups and put things together in a way that sort of planted the seed, and then look at what the Short North has grown into. Galleries move in and artists move in and they fix the place up, and then retailers start seeing the advantage of that, and restaurants start seeing the advantage of that. And that neighborhood gets bigger and better, and then all of a sudden it becomes too expensive for the people that originally moved there to exist in those places. That's kind of where this comes in. A lot of energy has gone into making things like Agora and Independence Day happen, where these groups start combining together. Well, finding a space that is somewhere where it's going to be beneficial for the artists is pretty important. A building like this becomes just enough proximity to things that have already happened and just enough distance from things that are happening. The time seems right. People are working together. Partnership with these guys has really become sort of the missing link. I can say with certainty that having people that know what they're doing in their field, running different portions rather than any one individual or group trying to take on the project, having a sort of a team already built is ideal. One of the things when you're looking at all these buildings around town and trying to come up with, well, can we turn this into an art center or a music venue or an office space? A lot of times you're looking for those unique architectural features, and this building has quite a bit of that. Now we have all these disciplines, and one of the things we're trying to do is chop up this building. We're trying to figure out how to make all these different components work together. How does it divide? And if you think about the fact that an artist is working in a space that is rough, and people are taking it seriously enough to come and see what they're doing, what happens if you take them and you put them into an environment that seems like the environment is as enriching as the artwork is? And you know, I kind of like this quote because if George Carlin feels good going to the doctor, maybe people will feel good coming to the art space. And then the most important thing for artists is just having the space be affordable. Another thing is creating an approachable space. There are galleries around town, and this is not to say that those galleries aren't serving their purpose, but the reason a lot of people come to Junction View to see exhibitions is because they feel like they can walk in and they're not intimidated by it. And we'd ideally like to create space like that. It's not something we have here at Junction View, but it's definitely something we'd like to have. We started talking with several groups that would like to run different shared workshops, anything from a welding lab, a ceramics lab, shared photo labs, shared screen printing labs, rehearsal spaces. It's not always the easiest to be working when a band is practicing. You hear the same song over and over and over again. Creating an actual space where those performers can come in and have a sound-isolated room, a dedicated space where they can store the things, don't have to worry about people jumping over walls or grabbing equipment, people entering the building. It's a secure space that's dedicated just for musicians. Knowing that there could be a dedicated recording studio in with rehearsal spaces, it's a direct link between a band goes to practice, they create their music, and they walk across the hall and they're ready to record. There's a few recording studios around town that do decent work, but they don't have the kind of facility that they would need to do exceptional work. Performance venue, we have a lot of those around town, but they're varied in size. We have small venues, basements, warehouses, things like that. And then we have the Wexner Center and the Ohio Theater. What we're looking to do is hopefully make more of a mid-range venue. Something big enough to hold a theater performance or a dance performance where there could be chairs and people could be seated, but still intimate enough where if we have a band come in, they're not going to feel like they're playing in a big empty room. Ideally, we want it to be flexible. We want it to be programmed 7 days a week, so maybe 6 days a week, so we have a day off. So you have this facility that every night there's something going on, and there's a rotation. It's not just indie bands playing or not just theater performance, it's all of that. Now the office component is pretty crucial. Having a dedicated office space where creative professionals basically have access to a dedicated office space, but at the same time they're in a creative building. They have the opportunity to be close to artists making things, other professionals, whether it be photographers, videographers, just having all of those creative people or all those businesses together, they can feed off of each other. Essentially, we're doing this sort of built-in synergistic environment. Co-working, it is that kind of space, and being able to work close to each other so that if you need a web developer, there's one sitting right across the desk from you, and you don't have to worry about hunting one down or working remotely. You get to know those people and get familiar. I think if you ask anybody in the group, none of us are shy about the idea of artists and creative people making money. If you have artists making things, and then they have a shop right there to put things in, and those shops have the benefit of relying on a steady stream of exhibitions and performances going on where it becomes a destination. And then along with that, food, drinks, and store. We like the idea of having a bar associated with a venue, or a coffee shop associated with people working in the building, offices. Right now in Junction View, if you're working here late at night, you end up going to Giant Eagle, or you end up going to Alexander's drive-through to get whatever you're drinking. Well, hopefully we'll be able to have some sort of component where there's things for sale in the building, so an artist late at night can just walk downstairs or walk across the hall. It's right there. And then, just like Junction View, anybody that works in the building, anybody that's been in the building knows that when we have a show here, every square inch of space is used. We've talked about making corridors into exhibition spaces and having kiosks and even things like using the parking lot for farmers markets and outdoor movies. We're hoping to have all the corridors be things that can be used for different aspects of what people are bringing in. So one of the main things, and this has come up with a lot of musicians especially, is what about security? At Junction U, we have a safe environment because we built a team and people are looking out for each other. At any point, though, somebody can come in and grab something, and obviously we don't want that to happen, so we watch out for each other. But what we're hoping to do with this building is create an actual secure environment where there'll be locked areas that if you're a paying musician and you have a studio, that you have access to that area, and that you don't need access to the retail area unless it's open, unless there's somebody there. And this won't be segregated, so during the day, when there's business hours and people are there, we can have it open so that people can see the building, but we don't have people roaming in the studios they're not supposed to. How are we going to be neighbors? What's parking going to look like? We're hearing a lot of questions about that, and we've already started discussions with the city, and the city's been very supportive of saying that they're willing to talk with us. We've talked to a lot of the neighbors in the area. We've talked to a lot of the parking lots in the area. We really are going to be the best neighbors we possibly can be. This second sentence is kind of the whole idea behind what we're doing here. It's great that everybody's here and wants to see the building happen, but revitalization of the building is great. The revitalization of the neighborhood is greater. Columbus has gotten really used to making High Street everything. Hopefully this, to some extent, will be a catalyst for things moving off of High Street, on 4th Street, onto Summit Street. How do we bring people over that way? And maybe this will be a way that we can get some of those sort of landlocked developments that are stuck moving again. Everybody asks, how much is space going to be? How much is this going to cost? The answer right now is there isn't a definitive answer because we don't know exactly what the building is going to be made up of. The general idea is the cost that people are paying in current spaces now, it'll be relatively close to that. What artists are paying for Junction View or Sandbox or retail space or music space in town right now will be very similar. Okay, so this is where it goes from us to you. We don't want to make a building and decide what's in it and then have everybody say, well, I don't need that. So what we'd rather do is say, these are kind of the things that we're thinking about. How would you guys like to be involved? Let us know, and then we can figure out percentage-wise how many artists are asking for space, how many musicians are asking for space. Who wants to just come and see shows there? And what we did was we created an online form at wonderlandcolumbus.com. Now what we're going to do over the next, I imagine the next month, is sit down and we're going to analyze all of what's come in and figure out the best way to make this building happen. And, what is going to make this the most successful? The answer to the question that everybody seems to answer is, that asked us is yes, we are going to keep the sign, we're going to have it lit up, and it's not going anywhere.